So you are now on screen, communicating as professionally as you did in the room before lockdown. Or are you? It's time. It's your client meeting. It's starting in 1 minute. Previously, it was in the room. But now, of course, it's online. It's virtual. It's on Zoom or MS Teams or Hangout or Skype. Anyone remember Skype? Whatever the platform, now it's really time. You are on screen. Your client is on screen. What's the difference? Apart from your freshly brewed coffee, beans ground just as you like them, rather than the office coffee, why shouldn't you carry on just as you did before, as you have been used to? After all, you are all consummate professionals in financial services, years of practice at talking to clients. Why not just take it as it comes? 3 questions to ask of yourself at this point. How do you show up on screen? What is the experience for your client on the other side of the screen? And why does this even matter? So what's this session about? It's about why this does matter. And we'll work on a couple of fundamental screen techniques to enable you to know how to appear more professional on screen, be better engaged with your client on screen, and even flip the Voldemort effect. And please do chuck comments and questions into the Q&A box. So 3 poll type questions that I will now ask of you. When communicating with your clients on screen, is your approach, well, pretty much just as before, just a few tweaks? Or B, updated tech, webcams and lighting, etc. Or C, as above, but I also ask clients how we appear in their eyes. So 3 options for you, A, B or C. A, pretty much as before, just a few tweaks, a bit of, just making sure it's okay. B, I've updated my tech. I've got some webcams, I've got some lighting. Or C, as above, but I've also checked with clients as to how we appear in their eyes. So why does this even matter? Think of your daily lives, of your clients' daily lives. You are cocooned in a slick, professional, transmedia bubble almost every moment of every day. The advertising, the marketing that surrounds you on social media, on TV, constantly. Now, you may be saying, I can resist the hype. Well, who else records as much as they can on the box to avoid watching the adverts so they can watch the program later? But chuck yes in the Q&A box if that's you. Yes, exactly. So the slickness, the professionalism of the communication still surrounds you. Expectations are set. Your clients' expectations are set. As a professional, you are accustomed to setting really high standards when meeting your clients in the room. I'm an ex-bank manager, and in previous life, my job was to take clients often to Coots in the Strand, and you can imagine the meeting rooms up there. Extreme professionalism. But now, you are on screen in a virtual room with added layers of skills required, an added set of communication pitfalls to avoid. That's why it matters. So we'll look at 3 fundamental areas to help you add a layer of professionalism to your on-screen communications. Your visuals, your voice, and indeed your office. And I'll explain what I mean by flipping the Voldemort effect. So we've established that you are the ultimate professional in your role, and you're pretty proud of it. Quite right too. You're in a role where meeting the client is crucial. You understand the importance of engaging visually with people in the room, holding their gaze at the right moment, glancing away within the norms of social acceptance. You know how to do this. It's automatic for you, years and years of experience. But now you are on screen with your client, on Zoom, on MS Teams, wondering why there's a sense of something missing. Engagement. Why is that? Think of the times you were in a family snap on a mobile phone where at the say cheese moment, you've all looked at the screen rather than the teensy camera at the edge. And when subsequently looking at the photo, you appear slightly detached, slightly disengaged, except of course for the one person who did look at the camera and is clearly looking at you. It's the same when you are talking with your clients on screen. Unless you are fortunate enough to have your camera slap in the middle of the screen, the temptation for all of us is to look at the face in front of us. Of course we do. It's natural. We want to see people. We want to see the reaction. We want to see our audience. Now, are you actually sure where the camera is on your screen? Put your thumb towards it so that I can see that you know where the camera is. I'm only teasing. Of course I can't see you there. But, you know, you'll be surprised how many don't. If you know where your camera is, just chuck yes, exclamation mark, in the Q&A box so that I know you know where your camera is. So tip number 1, look at the camera, not the screen. You will be more engaging when talking with your client. Prove it to yourself. Take a photo, take a short video of yourself actually on your camera. Or phone, looking at. Look at those 2 recordings. Which do you prefer? Which demonstrates engagement? Which will your client prefer? So 2 practical bonus tips at this point. Firstly, Pareto's law. You probably know it better than I. The 80-20 rule. In answer to the question, how much time should I spend looking at the camera versus how much time should I spend looking at the screen for the faces, try applying the Pareto's law. Spend 80% of your time on the camera and 20% looking down just to check the reactions. And then extra bonus tip, use a Post-it note. Just draw a smiley, happy face and stick it up by your camera. It won't take you long, I promise you, to get used to looking at the camera most of the time. And a little Post-it note can really help. What else are we likely to be doing without actually realizing it? Now, I love him to bits, as I'm sure you all do, but I remember vividly Prime Minister's question time, and he must have been searching for something. He put his face really close to his laptop, and what you saw as a viewer was Robert Peston's nose hairs. Not exactly a nice thought, is it? And I can promise you, what is guaranteed to damage the relationship with either a long-term existing client or a new prospect, it's going to be the sight of your nose hairs. So, you know, avoid the Robert Peston effect. And prior to the meeting, who checks their camera angle before waking up the meeting? Avoid the nonagenarian in a Nissan Micra at the traffic lights effect. You've all been there. You're on the way to the supermarket, you stop at the traffic lights, you look at the car coming towards you on the other side, also stopped at the lights, and you think, there's no one actually driving that car. And you know what it is? It's going to be the nonagenarian in a Nissan Micra, and all you see is the bald head. Again, so many times when you've been on a Zoom call recently, what's the first thing you've seen? The bald head of the person that hasn't quite adjusted their camera angle. I recommend testing it beforehand. Let's move on to your voice. Again, another 3 straightforward poll questions for you. So question A. So the question, when going onto a Zoom or Teams virtual session with a client, do you, A, simply go straight onto the call, B, a glass of water, and C, spend at least 10 minutes warming up your voice with exercises? So, A, simply go straight onto the call. B, I have a glass of water to hand, plus a good cough and splutter beforehand. And C, I spend at least 10 minutes warming up the voice with exercises that day. Answers on a postcard, please. Well, actually, chuck them in the Q&A box. Which are you, A, B, or C? Now, this is our say cheese moment here. How important is smiling on screen? Previously, when preparing to meet clients in the office, you put on your game face. We all do it. Agenda, check. Coffee, check. Smile, check. You know to do this. It's automatic for you in building those relationships with your client. But now you are on screen. What is your default face now? Here's the scenario. Tomorrow, you have an early morning call. In fact, I had one yesterday. I've got a client in Australia. So for me, it's crack of dawn, and for her, it's the end of the working day. There are no office colleagues to talk to. Not a word said to anybody since yesterday evening, other than a cursory grunt to your cat or your dog at breakfast time. Now cometh the allotted time. Your client is on screen. Why? Again, 2 minutes in, is there a feeling of disengagement? Is your default face at that moment the I haven't had my cup of coffee face yet? Obvious though it may seem, your smile will really help for 2 reasons. To the warmth of your greeting. It's part of your evolution as a human being. When you smile, what we've learned to do as human beings is to tell the person that we're talking to send a message that we are friendly, warm and engaging and not a threat. That's our evolution. You may not be aware that smiling also lifts the soft palate at the back of your throat, making your voice warmer, more engaging, richer, more pleasant to listen to. Now, for any fellow singers out there, this sort of message will have been thrown at you constantly by my musical director, because the musical director wants his choir to smile to make the audience happy, but also they know that the voice is going to sound richer and warmer. So are there any fellow singers out there? Just chuck sing into the Q&A box. Sing! Exclamation mark. And maybe we'll start a choir right now. Oh, got some fellow singers. Great. More and more, please. Now, in the office, you do this automatically. Now, though, your I haven't had my cup of coffee yet face can easily replace the game face. Again, prove it to yourself. Do it now. Record a clip on your phone with your pre-coffee 6:30 in the morning face. Now record again with a deliberate Cheshire grin. Listen through the ears of your client. Which voice is warmer? Which voice is more engaging? Which creates engagement? Which do you prefer? Which would your client prefer? Chuck your answers in the Q&A box. Smile or no coffee? Which one do you want to listen to? The smiley voice or the no coffee voice? So tip 2, make an effort to smile on screen. You will sound warmer, richer, and more engaging. Let's divert for a moment into the world of podcasts. And here, 5 possibilities for you. When it comes to podcasts, are you A, not my world at all? B, not been on one yet, albeit interested if asked? C, I have been a guest? D, I regularly guest on podcasts? And E, guest, I host podcasts. So which are you? Chuck it in the Q&A box. A, not my world at all. B, not been on one yet, albeit interested if asked. C, have been a guest. D, regularly guest on podcasts. Or E, guest, I host podcasts. While you think of what position you're in, let me just relate a short tale, if I may, from my bank manager days. I was in an office where we got engaged or got talking and involved with a local radio program. It was actually Radio Sunrise in Hounslow, of all places. And a couple of us were involved as regular guests on the program. And I had a really foresighted boss who said to a couple of us, you are representing our financial services organization. you're going to do this professionally. And he sent us on a BBC radio training course, which is one of those little gems in life that has been so useful over the years. What I vividly remember and will always remember is the BBC presenter putting us in front of the microphone and saying, just put the biggest Cheshire Cat grin on that you can. And then we heard that recording through BBC sound quality. And the difference was amazing. So tip number 2, make an effort to smile on screen. You will, I promise you, sound richer, warmer, and more engaging. And we'll return to your voice a little later. Let's stay focused for the moment on the immediate impression that you are making on your client. Let's look at your office. Or rather, what does your client see of your office? Here's the next trio of poll-type questions for you. When it is the allotted time for your Zoom or your Teams call, do you, A, simply open the platform and start? B, do a quick check before connecting with my client? Or C, really thoroughly prep? I do a test session, I do a sound check, I hoover and tidy up. So which are you? A, I simply open the platform and start. B, I do a quick check before connecting with my client. Or C, I do a thorough prep, a test session. I do a sound check. I actually hoover and tidy up around me. Now, we've established that you are the consummate professional. You prepare thoroughly for client meetings. Your dress style is appropriate to the situation, the venue, and the client. You are sensitive to your client's preferences. And if, like me, in my bank manager days, you look after high net worth clients, you probably even know their biscuit preferences. You know how to prepare for meetings. It's automatic for you. But now you are on screen. How does your office match your client's preferences now? We can talk about blurring and green screens in a moment, but let's look now at what is in view now, in your client's view. Now, your own biscuit preferences may be digestives, like mine. But is your client actually looking at a half-eaten specimen adjacent to a stained coffee cup? Now, in your real office, papers would be neatly filed away. Yet, what's that scruffy collection piled up behind you? Maybe even something with other clients' names in view. I may be doing you a complete injustice here, in which case, my apologies. So prove it to yourself now, or after this session anyway. Firstly, go stand the other side of the desk, or as close as you can if it's against the wall, to view your office through your client's eyes. If anyone recognises this image, again, chuck it in the Q&A box. Which room, which office are we looking at the moment on screen? If you know, chuck it in the Q&A box. And then secondly, open Zoom, MS Teams, your client, to look not at yourself. Oh, my hair looks wonderful today. But at what is around you? What does your client see? So tip number 3, prepare your virtual meeting room as professionally as you would prepare your own meeting room. A couple of short stories on that, if I may. One of my colleagues in my world, part of my publishing team, they're involved in a project with a potential new client. The phone calls have gone well. The emails have gone well. It was time for a Zoom call. So the Zoom call was placed, and the potential client at the other end opened the Zoom call in bed. And the first view that my colleague had of this potential client was an open pajama top, a hairy chest, a medallion, an unshaved chin, and scruffy early morning hair. That project did not proceed. Now, I'm sure nothing as dramatic in your world, but what is your client going to see first time when they look at you on screen? Or in a much softer way, our kids are long gone from this house, but still, on the mantelpiece behind me are fluffy toys that we keep there as memento. Now, it may be my choice to have them there because it's part of this house and the personality, but it comes back to that question, what do you want your client to see? And while we're here, let's divert for a moment in just a touch of tech. The caveat is you can spend thousands on tech, cameras, lighting, gizmos, but all it takes is a hairy chest and a pre-coffee face, and you've just wasted the entire investment. A triumvirate of poll questions for you now. When it comes to green screens, do you A, like them but not got one, stroke not sure how to go about it, B, love them, use one, or C, hate them with a vengeance, they're so forced and unprofessional? So chuck it in the Q&A box. Are you A, like them but not got one, not sure how to go about it, B, love them, use them, or C, hate them with a vengeance, so forced and unprofessional? Now, I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong here. It's a Marmite question. It's horses for courses. I deliver workshops on this topic. So for me, having a background to the workshop that helps convey the message we're working on works. So yes, I will use a green screen. If I was in my bank manager days with clients that I want to take to Coots in the Strand, what I would probably want is the professional office with the nice bookshelf behind me. So it's horses for courses. It's what you want to use. But a couple of quick tech tips while we're here, if I may. If you're looking at green screens, then the physical one is the safest, as in a piece of muslin cloth that hangs behind you that the camera picks up. It works and it's very simple. And if you're delving into the world of virtual green screens, then first of all, you need to check that your laptop, that your kit has got processors that's absolutely loaded with oomph. So look up the criteria on Zoom and check that you've got the right amount of oomph in your processor to run a virtual green screen. In fact, let's just touch on tech issues just for a moment. Tech issues are going to happen. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are, tech issues are going to happen. And it's a question of remaining calm and remaining professional. And may I suggest having a team around you. Now, I'm part of a team. We're all authors in the same publishing house. And until the summer break, we were running a series of what we called Lunch with Friends. And it was a great fun. It was an hour, but very carefully and tightly structured, with a whole series of events going on in that hour. What we did not do was leave it to one person to run the lot. We spread the responsibilities around the team. So someone was looking after the welcome to say hello to people when they came into the room. There were hosts for the intros. Someone was put personally in charge of the breakout rooms to make sure they worked. Someone was monitoring the chat box. Someone else was picking up the questions from the chat box to feed back to the person that was being interviewed. Someone was responsible for the interview, and someone else was responsible for the end of session interactive fun bits. If you've got tech involved, I really recommend spreading the responsibility around so that it goes as professionally and as smoothly as you can, and others can step into the gap when needed. Now, I promised you I would explain Flip the Voldemort effect. Harry Potter fans out there will be well used to the he who must not be named. Let's flip that to he or she who must be named. What do I mean? This medium of communication, virtual communication, is set to continue pretty much post-COVID, I would suggest. The cost benefits alone. If you've got a team from all around the country, why should you now pay for everyone to travel and stay overnight when you can do it on screen at much less cost? So in the post-COVID scenario, with this as the way going forward in a hybrid form, which one do you want to be? The one who muddled through, got through okay, a bit tatty around the edges, a bit bird around the edges, or the one who approached this with a degree of professionalism? in that transmedia bubble that surrounds your client, why shouldn't you be remembered as the one who met and then exceeded their expectations? So to answer our original question at the outset, that is why this matters. A quick bonus feature here. I paused for a second deliberately so that everyone can go, ah, at the sleeping cat, because you can guarantee an audience reaction with the sleeping cat. But here's your question to your audience. How's your standing with your client? Or rather, how are you standing with your client? So here's the scenario. It's a big presentation, pre-COVID. You've got the chance to go and speak to 200 people in the room. You take a big gulp and you walk up to that stage ready to present. Would you walk up to the front of the room, sit down in a comfy armchair and start speaking? Of course you wouldn't. Because as part of that presentation situation, you know that standing in front of your audience creates energy. And may I suggest it's the same when you are on virtual calls and presentations. If you stand, if you're the one running the session, if you stand, you will automatically present another 50%, 80% of energy into the room simply by that action of standing. So try on your next Zoom call, even if it's with a couple of colleagues. Make sure your laptop is positioned on, even if it's a pile of cornflake boxes, put it up so that you can stand to deliver your presentation. And I promise you, it will give you what you are looking for. I did say I would return to your voice. So who wants to go to the beach? Yeah, not Bournemouth, no, this one. Space, room to roam, room to your voice to be used to its full potential. Let's look a little deeper at the preparation of your voice. Why? Because this is your instrument for delivering on screen. A quick question. What were your favourite sports? I say were because if you're my age, Henley Royal Regatta in 1975 was a triumph, but I haven't quite matched it since. If you are a sports person, let's say you're a runner or a footballer, you know better than I that if you go straight out onto the pitch with no preparation, with no warm-ups whatsoever, the chances are you are going to be in physio for the next couple of weeks. And you know, it's the same with the voice. So here's the scenario. It's the normal business day. You're up with a lark, you grunt at the partner, the dog, and you're into the office, real or virtual, and you're straight into a webinar. And what happens? How often have you heard people, that 30 seconds a minute in, it goes, oh, excuse me, I've got the frog in throat. Your voice is quite a delicate instrument. And if you can warm it up properly, I promise you, it will create a warmer, richer effect and make you more professional. Let's do a couple of voice exercises now. So if you can, if you're in a situation where you can join me, let's do some exercises. I'm going to ask you to explore the O, the R, the E, the A, the U. And I'm going to count to 3, and you're going to join in with me and go O, R, E, A, U with your lips and teeth as wide as you can. So after 3, 1, 2, 3, O, R, E, A, U. You may feel a bit daft, but you will feel that your lips have just been stretched a bit. You've got them ready for working properly on screen. How about we add in the plosives, the k, the p, the t, the th, the th. Now the best place to do that, so I understand, not being a football person, is to be on the terraces when we could go and see football, to hurl some English vernacular, shall we call it, at the team supporters on the other side. Now we can't do that today because this is professional, but here's what we can do. Our wonderful friend Shakespeare created some incredible English vernacular words. And the trick with this is to take one word from each column and create for yourself an instant insult. So you can call someone a baldy, fen-sucking flapdragon. And yes, you've just insulted them in the nicest way. But what you've also done is you've warmed up your... So let's all do that together. If you're able to, if you're not in a situation where it's going to insult everyone, look on the screen now, and I'll just ask you to, after 3, select one word from each column and give me the most vile insult you can possibly do it. You jarring, folly-flocking flit girl. Anything you can find that creates a 3-worded insult just to warm up those lips and teeth and get the k, the p, the f, the t, the f into it. The English vernacular at its best. And if you can't do that, then if you're in the car just travelling somewhere, then why not just do some warm-up exercises there? And here's an additional thought. Again, preparation and professionalism. A trio of poll questions for you. When presenting or talking with your client on screen, do you A, simply start speaking, B, do a quick check to ensure the mic is working and the sound is on, or C, do a thorough prep, test the mic position, check for mouth clicks, pop shields. So are you A, I simply start speaking, B, I do a quick check to ensure the mic is working and the sound is on, or C, I thoroughly prep. I test the mic position, I check the mouth clicks, I check the pop shield is working. Whilst you're thinking about that, here's a couple of thoughts about preparation for using the mic, even on your laptop. Think of it from this angle. You're going to watch a film you've been looking forward to, or a program on TV you've been waiting for. And actually, the sound quality, when it arrives, is pretty rough. How do you feel? I'd suggest a tad disappointed. So if it's your client on the other side listening to you and the sound quality is less than professional, what's the impression you're creating? Think about the position of your mic, noisy breathing. Who's been on Zoom calls where you hear the someone's close to the microphone? It just ruins the moment, doesn't it? So again, a couple of practical exercises for you. Do it right now, actually. After 3, we're going to do noisy breathing. So after 3, we're going to go. So if you're ready, 1, 2, 3, go. Not exactly professional, is it? Whereas, did you know, if you simply open your mouth reasonably wide and breathe from your lower stomach, from your gut muscles, you will automatically do a silent breath. So with me, after 3, open your mouth reasonably wide, breathe from your lower stomach, not from your chest. Breathe from your gut muscles. After 3, breathe. There. Silent. You've avoided the noisy breath on screen. Also just remember to keep hydrated. And that doesn't mean just having a glass of water by the side of you. Of course, that's important. To be properly hydrated, to really get that voice moving for, say, a couple of hours on screen, you need to have been taking water on board probably 4 to 6 hours before. So let's wrap up this session. It's time to head for the bus from the journey home. Back to the 3 questions to ask of yourself. How do you show up on screen? What is the experience for your client on the other side of the screen? And why? Why does this even matter? We looked at tip number 1. Look at the camera, not at the screen. You will be more engaging. We added in 2 practical bonus tips. Use Pareto's law. 80% at the camera, 20% on the screen. And we used a post-it note to place by the camera to remind us where the camera is. A couple of things we've avoided. We've avoided the Robert Peston nose hair on screen effect, and we've avoided the nonagenarian in a Nissan Micra at the traffic lights with the bald head showing at the start. We've looked at the tip to make an effort to smile on screen. You will sound richer, warmer, and more engaging. We've looked at your office, or rather, what does your client see of your office? And tip number 3 is to prepare your virtual meeting room as professionally as you would prepare your meeting room in the pre-COVID days. We touched on green screens, on tech issues, hairy chests and fluffy toys. And we flipped the Voldemort effect. We turned it from he who must not be named to he or she who must be named, because we took the professionalism to the expectation of our clients. We've added in extra energy. Standing at the desk, standing at the laptop when you present will automatically add 50 or 80% more energy. And we just touched a little on the preparation of your voice and enjoyed a few Shakespearean insults to hurl around our colleagues. And we've also touched briefly on some microphone techniques. All of this with one common purpose: to help you be more professional on screen. Now, it's been a pleasure working with you. Any questions, please throw them in the Q&A box now. So I could hear some of you hurling Shakespearean insults at the screen. No, I jest. Honestly, I haven't. Any questions, please put them in the question box now, and we'll answer them in the next few minutes. I've got a couple of early birds here, actually. Fiona, so you mentioned a glass of water, Ges. So how important is hydration? Now, clearly a top topic in today's heat. And yes, I've got a glass of water with me now, as I suspect you have whilst watching. But were you aware of the need to hydrate actually considerably earlier than when you actually go on screen? So any of you involved in performing will know that if you take on water 4 to 6 hours before, it will help the performance of your voice. So in answer to that question, hydration, very important for your voice to perform at its best. Please start drinking water 4 to 6 hours. Okay, you might be in the loo a lot, but your voice is going to be much, much, much better. So that's water. Alison asks, how important is it to stand? Yes, I know I touched on that, but I can't emphasize that too much. I'm standing at at a microphone now, and I know that I can give you far more energy in the way that I talk to you than if I was sitting slumped in the chair. So again, I urge you, get into the regular habit of actually standing when you're giving a presentation. When it's your reputation online, when it's your client that you want to impress, why shouldn't you make your voice perform at its best? Sharon Sutton. Sharon asks, where do I find more info on green screens? Actually, there's a Facebook page called Remote Speaking that was started by one of my colleagues in the Professional Speaking Association at the start of lockdown. Remote Speaking. If that's email me or contact me on LinkedIn if I haven't got that quite right. But a Facebook page called Remote Speaking. You will find vast amounts of information, questions being fired all through lockdown on some deep technology that I'm going to go straight over my head, but also some practical stuff on green screens. So go and search for what other people have asked. Save you a lot of time and effort. Alistair Norton says, would you say no to having a cup of coffee in the meeting? That's an interesting one, isn't it? For me, it always comes back to what does your audience expect of you? Because as a presenter, and even when you're on screen, one-to-one with your clients, you are presenting. It is your speak performance, your hashtag speak performance. What does your client expect? If I think back to the clients that I looked after as a bank manager back in the 90s, some of those, there's no way I'd be drinking a cup of coffee in front of them because I know their characters. They were very formal in the way they approach things. Right, so others, it's a relaxed fireside chat. So sorry, that's not a one-line answer to your question, Alistair. It's what is the expectation on the other side of the screen? What does your client expect of you, and how can you best match that? So other questions I've got here. Michael says, can I have a copy of the Shakespeare insults? Yes, of course you can. If you just find me, if you put Ges Ray, GESRAY into any search engine, I'll be there because I think there's only one of me in the world. Find me on LinkedIn. Let's connect on LinkedIn, and I will more than happily provide you with your personal copy of the Shakespeare insult kids, that more likely you will blue tack to your laptop to use silently when you have one of those clients that, well, you know what I mean. You absolutely know what I mean. So Annie asks, what life hacks can you suggest to warm up your voice? A couple of very, very simple things. When you actually get back to going in the car to see people, and we'll get there eventually, just put the radio on and have a sing along. To just use the voice in somewhere private. And if you're in a building, go into the toilets, shut the door, and just do a few simple exercises. Here's a very practical one for you. I'm going to make myself really stupid on the webinar now. But if you just go, you will be heard. You will warm up that voice. I just say you will be heard. You don't want to be heard doing that, do you? You will warm up your voice just by stretching it out. And if you can't do that, just do a really, really good yawn. George Turner asks, would you say you should stand even if it's a one-to-one call? I'm just thinking about getting the client to relax and open up. And perhaps if you're sitting, it will help them do that. George, I agree. You want to mirror, don't you? This is body language mirroring. You want to mirror what your client expects of you and how you can get the best out of it. If I want a fireside chat with someone, yes, I will sit in a comfortable chair and we'll have a nice chat. But if you've got a client on the other side that is expecting some sort of presentation from you, I would recommend standing. They're only going to see a head and shoulders view of you, probably no more than they would if you were sitting, but you can really get the energy in. Charles asks, and I can sense your frustration here. Why do people not look at the camera? Come back to what I said earlier. It is actually quite instinctive to want to see the reaction on your client's face. If you're in the room with your client, you're going to be studying for every micro twitch, aren't you, to see how they're reacting. So understandably, everyone wants to see the face on screen so that they can get the reactions. And you might find that actually your client isn't looking at the camera. They're staring at your face on screen, and it may feel odd. But the important thing is, how are you communicating with your client? So my suggestion is, as much as you can, look at the camera so that your client or clients are seeing your eyes and having that vital eye contact. A question from Becky here. How important is lighting? I'll pick up here on something that Philip said actually in the earlier presentation about trying to be as professional as you can when you are on screen with your client. May I suggest that lighting comes into that? It may be as simple as making sure that there is a window in front of you and not behind you so that natural daylight falls on you when you're on screen. That's the very simplest thing to do. If that's impossible, if you're in a dull room and you need a bit extra help, why not try a simple ring light? Just to, the beauty type lights, they're quite cheap, and just plug one into your laptop and just get a bit extra light on your face. And then up to the level that actually Philip was talking about doing webinars, if you want to make sure that you come across really professional and look as good as you can on screen, then 120, 130 quid. There's a company called Neweer, Neweer, that does everything from green screens to lights. And for 120 quid, you could get a couple of really professional photography lights that you can stick in the room that you're in. I often use them in a bedroom, actually, if I'm doing a presentation, and it just makes professional lighting around you. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this session. I really enjoyed working with you. I hope you enjoyed what you learned today. My urge to you is not to just tick the box and say, job done, that was an interesting webinar, now we'll go back to what we normally do. Please take this stuff on board, add it in little degrees to what you do when you work on screen, because it's all about making you as professional as you possibly can when you're on screen with your client. And in today's world of even hybrid events, but if we're going to be on screen for a long, long time, if you can add that extra margin of professionalism, you are going to be different to your competitors. Isn't that what it's all about? Let's make you as professional as you can be on screen. So we'll finish there. Look me up on social media, Ges Ray, Gesray. Delighted to connect with you on LinkedIn is my main profile, but of course on Twitter and Facebook as well. But let's connect on LinkedIn. More than happy to answer any further questions that you may have. And a massive thank you for being on this morning.